my own words.
Okay.
So I had a regular radio show. I was on radio all the time. I would be interviewed. Anybody that wanted to interview me for television, I would be interviewed by them. I had a press conference a day.
Yeah.
Every single day I had a press conference.
And I guess there your experience as prosecutor was helpful too. You knew how to talk, you knew how to present yourself.
You know what it did too? It disciplined me. It meant I had to be prepared.
Yeah.
I mean, they were tough. So it meant like every day I had to know the answers to what was, I had like a certain set time that I was going to have that press conference, and by that time I better have at least some answers. I once told Tony Blair that it reminded me of the question and answer session that they have in the English Parliament.
Yeah.
They have that once a week. I'd have it once a day.
Right.
And it was very aggressive, and now that I look back on it, it was a great discipline. It meant that nothing could slip more than about 24 hours, because you better have some kind of answer.
Let's get back to the Republican Party, and we were really now in a situation with that party, and you are a major figure where there's a lot of tension. And just recently, the expression of a rift between Dick Cheney and Colin Powell, for example. What do you make of that? I mean, how would you gloss this? How would you explain this?
I just saw Colin Powell today.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
And,
is he a friend?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
And
did you discuss this?
We didn't. We only had a brief moment to say a few words to each other. I think, look, they're always going to, strong figures in political parties disagree with each other. There was an awfully big rift between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. The reality is the Republican Party should be big enough to embrace both of them. Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, they're both enormously good Americans, made tremendous contributions, and we should be a big enough party to allow somewhat different viewpoints.
Are you a big enough party too?
Well, if we're not...
Is there an effort to push out, or do you feel that this is an important or a symbolic point in the history of the party?
There's always that tension in a political party between the people who think of themselves as the purists and the people who are more moderate. The Democratic Party had that for a long time. I think the answer to it will determine whether we become a majority party or not in the near future.
How you incorporate.
Yeah, we have to be a broader party.
Okay.
We cannot continue to lose in the Northeast. We can't continue to lose New York and Pennsylvania, Connecticut, down on the West Coast, California, Washington, Oregon. We have to run candidates that have a chance to win in those places if we're going to be a majority party again.
Okay. Switching gears to Mayor Bloomberg. What do you think about his, I guess you could also talk about his political transformation, as well as his change in term limits so that he can now run for a third term? What are your thoughts on both? What are your thoughts on the man?
Well, first of all, I like Mike
very,
very much. He's a good friend, and I think he's been a very good mayor. And I feel very fortunate that he succeeded me, because I always worried that somebody would succeed me and would undo everything I did.
Yeah.
Right?
You feel he developed what you did?
I do.
Evolved
I do believe that. I believe he did. I think he developed it. I think he improved it. I think he's done a good job. I don't agree with him on everything.
Yeah.
Mike was a Democrat much longer than I was. He turned from Democrat to Republican about a year or two before he ran for mayor. So I think really his thinking is probably more democratic or more liberal than mine. But he's really an independent.
Yeah.
I mean, because he can take very conservative positions on certain things, like on the economy. He's generally very conservative. But then on social policy, he's even considerably, I mean, I would consider myself a moderate. I would consider him a liberal on social policy. But he's been a very good mayor. And I think he was right to try to overturn term limits, because I think we need him. And I think, it sounds egotistical for him to say that. It isn't. It's just reality. The choices that we have for mayor, he's the best, and we need the best right now.
Okay, so it's an extraordinary moment in time, and you feel it's justified.
Yes, I believe that if that weren't the case, Mike wouldn't have done it. He respects.
You wanted to do it in a sense.
No, I didn't.
You?
I just wanted.
You wanted
at one point, for about 2 days, I thought about the idea of serving for 1 or 2 more months, so that I could transition it more easily to the next mayor because of the 9/11 crisis, September 11 crisis that we were going through. But after about 2 days of thinking it, I realized that was a mistake, that it just wouldn't work, that people wouldn't understand it, and it probably wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
And what I did was I put my energy into helping get Mike Bloomberg elected.
And it worked out well.
You know, I guess part of the thinking was, my goodness, not only is everything I did going to be overturned, but in the middle of this, of trying to get the city back, I'm going to have to turn it over to somebody with a totally different philosophy. I thought about it for 2 days, and I never really made up my mind to do it. There was people who wanted me to do it, people that didn't want me to do it. And then I realized it wouldn't make sense. And let me just rely on the democratic process and try to get Mike reelected. And if he didn't, well then, you know, we'll do the best we could.
So if you had had another term, is there something that you would have liked to have done?
You mean if I hadn't been term limited, would I have run again? And I don't think I would have, but you know, your former governor once told me something, Dick Thornburg, that always stuck in my mind. He used to say, term limits saves you from yourself.
Because you might have gone on forever.
Because, well, particularly, well, if term limits weren't there with September 11, then I definitely would have.
Yeah.
Without September 11, I wouldn't have. I was very, very content to leave after 7 or 8 years. I certainly didn't get tired of the job. I loved it, but it is a very, very draining.
I can imagine.
I mean, it is
and having been prosecutor before,
it's a 24-hour-a-day job.
Right.
You never really go to sleep. The way I did it, I went to every emergency. I went to every police officer, firefighter, city worker that was injured. I never knew if I was going to sleep all night or get up in the middle of the night. And I virtually never left the city. I mean, I was always close by. So it was a very draining experience. And then the 4 months of September 11 were almost like another term of office.
Yeah.
But who knows, maybe I would have. And what would have been, the schools would have been part of the agenda.
Certainly, Mayor Bloomberg has tried his best
Mayor
in
Bloomberg,
that area.
Mayor Bloomberg, you asked me, you know, back at the first interview about my predecessors. Every single one of them tried to do something that he achieved, including me. We tried to get control of the school system. I don't know if it goes back as far as Lindsay. It certainly goes back as far as Koch, David Dinkins, and I believe the mayor should have control of the school system. And we all made advances in that.
Yeah.
But Mike got it done.
Yeah.
And it's made a difference. But I believe there's something more fundamental that should be done, which is more controversial. I am very much a big believer in choice and vouchers. I think that that's the civil rights issue of our era, because I believe that, look, I've had enough money to pay for my children to go to private school. Somebody who doesn't have as much money should have the same opportunity as I have to educate their children as effectively if they believe that's what they want to do with it. And I think the money should be given to the parents, not to the school system, and the parents should choose the school.
Well, that's again a Republican position. You have had a rather tumultuous private life, and I don't want to go there specifically, but I do want to say that I think it's interesting that you appear to be a very hard-nosed, pragmatic person as a public man, but my sense is that you're a romantic as a private man.
Well, I'm an opera lover and an Italian.
You're an opera lover and an Italian, okay. But is that true? I mean, would you say you are a romantic?
Yeah, I think I am, yes.
And what does that mean?
What it means is that I've always very much believe in love. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think that some of my life I regret that I made wrong choices and hurt people or did things wrong, and particularly having grown up as a Catholic, you know, there's a lot of guilt that's attached to that. But you keep struggling to make yourself better. You keep struggling, and I have. Love? Judith is wonderful. I mean, she's a terrific wife. She's a terrific person. We have a wonderful relationship,
and
maybe
a romantic evening.
For us,
yes,
it differs. Sometimes just reading books and talking about them. We talk a great deal. Sometimes watching movies. We love to go to movies. Love to go to the opera.
Okay. What's your favorite opera?
Othello, Verdi's Othello. She loves baseball, so we spend a lot of time going to Yankee games and watching. She was a Yankee fan before she met me.
If you were to live in any city besides New York, what city would that be?
In America or in the world?
Oh, in the world.
Probably Rome.
I knew you were going to say that.
And Judith will live in Paris.
Okay.
She speaks French.
I agree with her there.
She speaks fluent French and pretty good Spanish, which has helped me a lot.
Okay.
She would live in Paris, I would live in Rome, so we'd have to go 6 months of each. But Rome to me is, it's the ancient nature of Rome and the modern part of it. Paris doesn't have the history that Rome has. Probably the next city, believe it or not, would be Jerusalem, for that reason. I love Jerusalem.
I've never been there.
And it's the same. If you walk a block in Jerusalem, you can put yourself back 2,000 years ago. And if you just look down, you can see 2,000 years ago. Something about that creates a mystery for me that I love. And both cities, Jerusalem and Rome, are very vital modern cities as well. Okay. So I guess those are my two favorite cities. I love London.
Mm-hmm. What about in this country?
I love Chicago. I love Philadelphia. I love Boston. They're cities to me.
Yeah.
Los Angeles is a little different. Los Angeles is like a group of suburbs, but I like Los Angeles. Probably if I lived in California, I'd live in San Diego because it's a little more compact. I love Phoenix. I love cities before I was the mayor. I'm also an amateur photographer and I don't do it enough. But my major thing when I was an amateur photographer was I take pictures of cities. And I love the hustle and bustle of the city.
Yeah, yeah.
And I used to joke a lot when I left being mayor and traveled around making speeches and doing a bunch of things that I'd have to bring an audio tape of sirens and garbage trucks in order to go to sleep at night because I need that noise around me. Paris, Rome, and London have the same energy, and believe it or not, Jerusalem does, have the same energy that New York has. But only New York and, well, I guess Rome, Paris, and London are 24-hour cities, but only New York is a real 24-hour city.
Such a 24-hour city.
When I ran for re-election as mayor, I campaigned for 50 hours straight because I knew there were people that I could reach at night that were working in New York, and I campaigned in the places where they were working all night, like in hospitals and police stations and subway stations, bowling alleys, diners. New York is a 24-hour city. You either love that or you hate it.
Yeah. I think you did meet the president of our university who passed away recently, Konstantin Papadakis.
Yes.
It strikes me that he had some of the same sort of energy, that you're somebody who, you talk about the cities being 24-hour. Strikes me you're 24
pretty
hours.
close to it,
He
yeah.
was 24 hours too. And there are some people like that. They just, their energy is nonstop, unquenchable.
From my mother.
From your mother?
My mother slept very little. From the time I was a little infant, my mother said I never slept.
Yeah.
And
well, we're almost out of time, Mayor Giuliani, and I just want to ask you, what about your political future? Do you think that you will run again, whether it's for Senate, for governor, for president?
I don't know. It depends on the opportunities.
But you're not closing the door.
Not closing the door. You got to look at the opportunities and decide, are they realistic or not?
Yeah.
Can you do it? Can you win? I don't want to run again and at least not have a chance of winning. So you've got to see, do you have a chance of winning?
Do you like public life?
I do. I do. I love it. I thrive on it. I get a certain amount of it even when I'm in private life, so that's okay. Yeah. But public office is, I guess it makes you feel like you're doing something for more people and helping more people, and it gives you a sense of fulfillment.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking with us.
That's great. Thank you.
You were a pleasure
Thank you very
to
much.
speak with.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today at the Drexel interview.